everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hey CTO. Today in season 3, we are talking with communities in Portugal. And here with us, we have Marta Torneiro and Diana Martins, both running the community of DevOps Days Portugal. And besides that, also DevOps Porto, which is pretty much kind of a local community inside the bigger community in Portugal. We thought that Marta and Diana would be great examples to come today to talk about not only the community itself, but also about DevOps, and all the things that the community is interested in. And so first of all, Marta, Diana, thank you so much for being with us today on this show. And I would probably suggest to start with a quick intro so that people that are hearing for the first time, who is Marta, who is Diana, and so I think then we can take it from there. I don't know, Marta, if you would like to start.
I can start. Yeah, it's fine. Hi, guys, and thank you for the invite. It's super awesome to be part of this show and talk a little bit about DevOps. I think it will be super interesting, I hope. So I'm Marta. I'm from Porto. I'm working currently as a senior engineering manager at Fidel API, which is a startup, basically in a fintech. And I've been working for some years now with DevOps Porto and with DevOps Days Portugal, which started in 2019 here. So yeah, super excited to talk a little bit more about this.
Nice, thank you.
Hi, my name is Diana. I'm currently working as a lead infrastructure engineer at Farfetch. I'm from Vila Real, but currently based in Porto. And yeah, I joined the community DevOps Porto some years ago, and more recently the DevOps Days Portugal community. And yeah, it's pretty great to see DevOps coming up in these forums.
For sure. Nice.
Thank you for both of you to be here. I will start with the first question so we can get to know better this community. I don't know who wants to go first, but I would like to know the story behind the DevOps Porto and how it started relating with DevOps Days. So knowing about a bit the story about the community, how it reached the events in Portugal. So I don't know if Marta wants to.
Yeah, I can kick off. Yeah, so DevOps Porto already has several years as a community in Porto. So its main goal is to basically build bridges between communities and between people from different backgrounds that are interested into knowing a little bit more about automation, tooling, a lot of things related to infrastructure. We could go on and on and on about several topics that we talk about on the community, but basically it's just a place where we can share our experiences, and that's the main thing we try to focus on that community. Within the Porto district, obviously we don't have people just from Porto, but we tried to start that off. Actually, it's actually expanding a lot into Aveiro already, Braga, so we get a lot of people from other places already super interested in expanding the DevOps community. So, but it started like that. So we wanted to have a place where people could go to and discuss a little bit more what's on their minds in terms of technology. I remember when we started to talk a lot about test automation, because I was pretty much close to that topic, and it was something that we started to talk about because it was a broad topic now about CI/CD at that time. About CI/CD, and it was super relevant to talk about test automation. And it was so interesting actually to see a lot of QAs at the time also joining that community. So you could see like the bridges that were being built, and now you have topics from so many different aspects of DevOps and what it means. And that's what we wanted to do with DevOps Porto. On the DevOps Days side, we basically, well, that exists for several years. We already had in the 2019 edition where Pedro was part of as well. He was joining us. We had actually people that started DevOps Days, people from Datadog and all that. So what we wanted to do with DevOps Days is to open that DevOps DevOps Porto and DevOps Lisbon into a wider audience and kind of give the space for an entire day or two, the stage to different companies, to different professionals within this industry to talk about their experience, to be able to have a crowd that actually is able to share some insights with them as well. And that's what we wanted to do with DevOps Portugal, or DevOps Days Portugal, which is basically a bridge between the community within Portugal, but we get a lot of people also from outside of Portugal, which is super cool. Yeah, this year when we did it, 2020, when we did it in Porto, it was the second edition. We did it in Porto, and we were sold out, and we had several people coming in from outside of Portugal. So different companies joining us, from Microsoft, from Elastic, from.
Was it an in-person event or was it online?
Yes, it was in person.
Nice.
Super nice. So yeah.
Cool.
Diana, feel free to jump in, also talk a little bit about your experience.
That's pretty much it. It's great to see that the community is changing as remote work is coming into picture. We can see that our public is getting much more diverse, and that's it's easier to see companies from outside of Portugal to come to our events. So all these changes are visible on our community. It's really great to see.
For sure. And tell me one thing, Diana. So, for instance, you're currently working at Farfetch. I'm going to be honest. If in 2008 you would create DevOps Days Portugal, I'm pretty sure you would have like an empty conference. Because look, I'm not going to say I'm an old. I'm a seasoned professional. That's way better to say. And look, when I started to work, like no one ever spoke about DevOps. I think that also the sort of companies that were available, it was just kind of banking, insurances, more on the traditional sort of things. But for instance, I remember perfectly back in 2013 when I joined Farfetch, they were already talking about DevOps. So I'm curious to know if what is your opinion regarding the sort of impact of companies like Farfetch and a few others on the DevOps interest that we are seeing right now in Portugal.
Okay, so this is kind of a bit controversial subject, DevOps, but in my personal perspective, DevOps is very much a culture that values very much automation and making everything more efficient when we ship our code to production and maintain it there. So Farfetch had a huge and quick growth, and since DevOps is focusing this kind of automation, we leveraged from its usage and implementation to kind of have a more sustainable growth. So we thought about it very, very early in the stages of the company, and worked to get that kind of culture implemented. But regarding the second part of your question, that was how we kind of mix this perspective to the rest of the companies. We have multiple means of communication to the outside, and Farfetch encourages us to be part of those channels. So basically the FTech blog, the mobcasts, the podcasts, and also Farfetch is always very, very open to communities like DevOps Porto and DevOps Days to host events and also provide speakers. So Farfetch.
We just lost Sarah. It's fine. She will come back.
So Farfetch encourages us to share what we do inside to our communities. So that's kind of a big part that the company tries to take on the community.
Of course, it's true, right? Like I think that especially companies. I think that companies definitely have also this educational part, right? Because if the companies start to evolve and to get better at this sort of skills or craft, and if they operate in a very close fashion, I think that we as a community, and now I'm thinking, DevOps Portugal or DevOps Porto, we are missing a lot, right? Because it means that, or at least I have this idea that I think that companies also have this sort of obligation of educating and training the future candidates or future talent that will one day join Farfetch because they understood this and that, or Fidel API to that matter. Do you agree, Marta? Do you see that sort of kind of role of companies to really educate DevOps to young professionals, people coming out of
for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think I saw it actually when I was working at Blip. I think that was the main change I saw there is that, well, at Blip, we always had lots of young people coming out of universities that have never heard about what DevOps is, or assume DevOps is like something you do or someone you are as DevOps engineer. I'm with Diana on this. Could be controversial. Happy to comment, but
I'm going to ask about that. Trust me.
But I see DevOps in the exact same way. I think it's a mindset, it's a culture, it's a set of practices, it's a set of things that you need to be able to do and to be able to have within the work that you do on a daily basis to be able to deliver software, right? And I think, and that's why I'm so passionate about this topic, because I really think it's super important to train even the young people that are coming in. And I saw that young people coming in, understanding exactly what that means. Which tools, which practices, which type of mindset do we expect? What is your ownership when you're developing code? A lot of people come in and think they just need to develop code, right? And then they assume other people will take care of anything related to anything else. So other teams are the ones owning that, which isn't true, right? So it's super interesting to see that companies are evolving. I saw that on Blip. At Blip, we focused a lot on training these newcomers, but also the people that were there with the teams that we had, kind of made them understand that DevOps is not a thing that exists and someone does. And the same thing goes in Fidel API. I think we always need to focus on the practices, the mindset and the culture, not on the role as DevOps. And on both, and I can say it on both companies and even in the past, but I think things evolved. I think I never had DevOps engineers per se. We could still have one here or there because it was the name we found for the role in the company, but still, it's not common, right? It's like people are getting that it's not that. It's not a thing or a role, which is good. And companies are learning from it. And if they don't prepare, I truly believe this. If we don't prepare the people that we have to be able to understand this, I don't think companies are able to evolve. I don't think teams will be able to evolve. I don't think teams will have the exact ownership that we expect them to have if they don't understand these things. So I think it's crucial for their development, even, to be honest.
We are talking about mindset and culture. I wonder, for a company that is still a startup with very few people, all doing all sort of stuff, how early should a company start thinking about DevOps? Is it really right from the beginning? Is it already when they already have something in production and they start having more fears? When is it?
Well, I can share my point of view since I'm in the startup. I think Diana has obviously a broader vision of these things, but from the start, if you don't look at these things and if you don't worry about these things from the start, the software you're building will not be deployable, will not be shipped in the right way, will not have the quality you expect it to have. You will not have the even from a performance point of view, you're not able to understand how it's performing in production, latency wise, whatever. So you need to think about how you're building your software, and how you're building software. It's not code. That's just part of that. But you need to build a solution. You need to build, and the solution includes everything. Even if you need to build something for 2 years, until it actually reaches production. Well, having it, I expect it won't, but until you have some clients or paying clients, that usually happens in startups, right? But you need to think about that from the start. I don't see how you cannot think about the full cycle of delivering a product without thinking about this.
Yeah, totally agree. Since this is a culture, having this from the beginning is much easier, because changing culture in the middle of the way it's tricky and really hard. So definitely from the beginning. And bottom line, it will help the companies achieve their goals in a more sustained way, in the more quality, fast cycles. So from the beginning is definitely the best way. And from the point of view of a bigger company, after you have processes in place, it's really hard to go back and refactor stuff and refactor everything to change wherever your process is, to ship the code and maintain it live.
It's interesting that we are all talking here about DevOps, and I'm a huge fan, so don't get me wrong here. But at least, one thing that I've observed every now and then is that although DevOps is super interesting, and we would think to ourselves, oh, wow, so engineers love DevOps and it makes perfect sense, they are more complete and, they have the purpose. One point of friction that I've seen with DevOps is the on-call part. I think that one thing that is super interesting is that, so before DevOps, being a software engineer, or maybe a software developer, how we would call them back then, or a programmer, is, okay, I'm just doing my code, and at the end of the day, I close my laptop, and it's fine, it works on my machine. And I think that this sort of DevOps culture, DevOps mindset was like, well, sir, I have some bad news for you. Now you need to maintain your code in production, and so if something happens at 2 a.m., it's not the other person that is getting paid, it's actually you. And I think that usually people get super excited with DevOps, and at least in first hit, it's like, wait a minute, am I going to wake up at 3 a.m.? And I see that is probably like one of the biggest things in terms of a cultural shift with engineers. Have you kind of seen the same thing, or do you have like a different take on this?
I have the same exact perception when it comes to testing. I think it all goes through the same thing, right? So because engineers feel the same. Like we all know, we engineers usually, or developers usually, don't like maintaining something they don't know as much, like doing the tests, or infrastructure wise, or tooling, or whatever. And I think it's super fair. They say, okay, I don't feel comfortable doing it. That's fair. But I think it's the company's job or expectation that I would have for the company is to provide them guidance and provide them the training, the knowledge base that they would need to maintain the systems, whatever that means. I think when we build something, we need to own it. If we're dependent on someone else to fix our problems, like we deliver a feature in a certain system, that if anything goes wrong, we need to have the skill set at least to debug and understand who do we need to call if there's no way we can solve it. That's fine, but sometimes not even that, right? So sometimes people don't even know that part. So and that's bad. I don't think that's good preparation for the software engineers, right? So we need to be super mindful that when and I'm very outspoken at this sense. Like when we're building something, we need to own it from one end to the other. And that means testing, that means the code, of course, the testing, even be feel accountable for what we're delivering as in terms of products.
Of course.
Feel the ownership of building the right pipelines, making sure that we have the tools in place to monitor, have observability in place, like be able to react. And that means also on call. I think we need to be mindful of those things. It's not easy. I agree that some people need the extra push even to be woken up at 3 a.m. I get that. There's different things we could do to help them at different levels. But But at least from the knowledge base side of things, I think what we can do is to provide them with that knowledge and make sure that they understand that this needs to be the culture that we need to have. We build something, we need to be able to own it and maintain it. That's my point of view.
Yeah, totally. Before DevOps and this sort of stuff, this was not an issue. Developers built code, someone else would take care of it in production, because developers did not have access to production, or only special developers had access to production.
Exactly.
That's also true.
Now that's
and
not the case.
Want to have access to production.
Yeah, totally. That would mean waking up at 3 a.m. But now that's not the case, because with all the tools that the companies provide to developers to be able to monitor their applications that are running in production without even accessing production, changes the scenario.
Yeah, I was thinking, so we already discussed that mentioned that DevOps engineer shouldn't be a role, and this should be responsibility of the teams and the developers creating a product or developing the code. But I wonder if DevOps practice wouldn't still make sense to exist inside the companies to promote some consistency, some collaboration around these areas. And I don't know if the DevOps engineer will appear in that part. I wonder what have you been seeing in the people or the companies that interact with this community? What have been the examples that you have been seeing?
Interesting question. I think we've seen everything.
Several flavors.
Yeah, several flavors. Yeah, I was thinking about if I remember any example, like current example. But I think we have everything. Like, we have people who believe there are still DevOps engineers. They are still. I have some friends that are DevOps engineers, and it makes sense within their context, within the type of company they're in. And I think they are there more to help on that, like spread the mindset, make sure that the people understand what they need to do, make sure that they train people or are advocates for that, but they train people also to be able to get to that knowledge base that I mentioned, or that they work closely with the delivery teams or the teams that are developing the product, to help them understand if they have the tools they need, for example, or if they don't, how they can get it, or how they can help getting it. Like, they exist more around that perspective. I think it depends on the company, to be honest. I see them, DevOps engineers, as this role. I think it makes sense on this. It makes sense within this example that I've shared, but it will always depend on the company and the level of maturity of the company. Yep, I would say.
And also the size of the company. As bigger the company, I believe as you grow the company, the silos start to grow as well. There is not as much shared knowledge and shared responsibilities between people and roles.
No, for sure. And funny enough, I think that we are, hitting the nail right in the head. That is, DevOps is a culture, although definitely there was also some idea of DevOps being some sort of role. And so the DevOps engineer kind of, emerged. At that time, I remember perfectly that I was in that sort of trend. And then I kind of see, Google bringing the SRE. And so I think that then all of a sudden everyone was some sort of an SRE. And now it's interesting that I think that, Facebook brought the production engineer, which is almost the same sort of thing. And I think that we are kind of now trying to settle to what kind of, platform engineering kind of is, which, a couple of months ago, I was not even understanding what the hell is a platform engineering. But then it's interesting enough that it's almost kind of, finding sort of different names for slightly the same thing. that is definitely so. One thing is true. That is, I think that DevOps engineers back in the day did a lot of what we call the sysadmin sort of work, and I think that now SRE or platform engineering, production engineering, I think that they are trying to focus much more in enabling the engineering teams, right? So pushing the DevOps sort of responsibility to the teams, just like we were talking about, like own your code in production. Kind of that's how it needs to work. But because it's, everyone knows that it's super interesting to work with Kubernetes, and then what the hell do I need to do with this? I think that it merged this need of having these teams that were kind of providing tools to engineers so that those engineers could go faster. Is that how you are seeing kind of, these sort of very flavors of, at the end of the day, very different names to support engineering teams and to help them deliver, the right thing faster? Or do you think you have something different regarding this?
I think that DevOps, SRE, platform engineering are different levels of support. Recently I read something interesting that said DevOps looks from development forward and SRE looks from production backwards.
Wow.
I find that quite interesting. So basically, DevOps tries to implement stuff to get code to production, and SRE, in my perspective, provides the tools and all the support that maintains the code running in production in an healthy way and without issues with quick response time in incidents and resolution time. So I think they all support each other, but with different levels. And regarding platform engineering, I think that it is the enabler for these two levels. So basically, they provide a kind of self-service and easy-to-use platform for both SREs and developers, so they can do their stuff, their thing autonomously and easily. At least that's how I see this.
Yeah, I share the same vision. Overall, I think that's exactly how I see it. I'm seeing more SREs as supporting kind of the deployment and production side of things when things go wrong, usually in production. Those are the guys that help us. I'm not gonna lie. I appreciate them a lot. I need to be super clear on that. And when something goes wrong and we see, oh, we don't have monitoring in place for this, these are also the guys that tell us, we told you. Yeah. So I appreciate them a lot.
Very true.
On the post-mortems, I think those are the most valuable members that we usually have there, because they always find ways of saying, see, we can tackle this in production by doing this type of things. So it kind of influences, like Diana was saying, then now it influences the teams while developing things to think a little bit towards these types of problems that we have in production, how we can basically face them. So yeah, I share more or less the exact perspective.
Yeah, I wonder what can motivate even more an engineer to start thinking until that point. I don't know if sometimes the engineer maybe focus too much on their little home and only looks like this and don't look broader and think about the impact on the customer and so on. I wonder, when can we start educating engineers to start thinking broader and not just into the code? I don't know if it's something it's missing in college or in the computer science engineering, missing some focus into this part. But why do you think still nowadays we see engineers still? I don't like to think much about those concerns.
Yeah. That's actually a very good question. I'm gonna answer it in two points. One, I think it's pretty common that engineers, and this is not downsizing anyone, but it's pretty common that we, especially on product teams, which is my case, and that's how I've been working for forever, we tend to be a little bit focused on our own house, like you were saying, our own backyard, our own thing. So that happens even from a product perspective, I would say. which is obviously what we don't like to have, but it happens. We see it happen. So when it comes to actually developing a feature and thinking about, when I say developing is from start to the end and bringing it to production, it's you can see it even more, because now it's just not my backyard. It's even going down a level, right? It's not just this. Inside this is even a little bit lower, and that's where I think college, or when you had a good point there. I don't think we focus as much on training people for the real life scenario of the companies and what we need nowadays. So I don't think it's following as much the trend that the companies are now in. I think it's still a little bit tied to the old ways of doing things. I remember when I was in college, I was talking about, again, I'm going to talk about the test because it was super interesting for me at the time. I was always thinking about the test. Everyone was talking about the test as a phase or a stage within development. That's not the case now, right? So if we keep teaching people about that, exactly. So we're working on waterfall. That doesn't make sense. But to be fair, now we have colleges and we have engineering degrees that are now, or computer science, that are now teaching Scrum and all that. So I think things are changing slowly. True. So I think it's just a matter of continuing to teach people how companies work and their level of influence within a company. That means understanding that you can influence from requirements from the start, understanding that you can influence through the architectural side of things, how you will build your system, how you think you can provide, what's the ideal solution for this, that you can and should, and this is can and should, influence how you're going to deploy your code. What do you need? You need to have unit testing, you need to have integration testing. What do you need? What else? You need a pipeline to run it through. Okay, how am I going to do that? Which tools am I going to use? Understand that you need to have a mindset of delivering your code and delivering software and delivering features to production. And what that means also in production, because I don't think people are aware that, or people that are coming out of college are not fully aware that you also have that responsibility in production. When we talk about monitoring and observability, I don't know if everyone knows exactly what this means. Honestly, I don't know if like younger people, and they're coming out of college. And that's fair, because we probably are not showing them what it is to actually build a system. And what was in 2013 when I was in college, it's not the same now, right? So I expect. So
I hope not.
I expect it's not. But I think that's a fair point. Maybe we're not showing them the full picture of where they can influence. But I think that's also on the companies to then also get these raw diamonds. I always call them the raw diamonds. Because I really do believe, well, I found some, so I'm calling that because I told them this. I think they are diamonds in the rough. Because you can actually train them and get them into this mindset and present them with why this is important. And I think if people understand why, that's the start for everything. And that's where I believe we can also do a lot within the companies and get them the right mentorship and the right training and the right people around them to teach them that. I think that also helps, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm totally aligned with Marta. Companies have a huge part in this and train people in the correct way to have all this mindset and concerns when designing some solutions. And mainly what we need to teach our people is that if we design our systems properly, we will be fully autonomous. We can have ownership over everything and will not depend or be blocked by anyone else.
For sure. And it's interesting that I want to grab something that I think it was Marta that mentioned during a couple of minutes ago. Like Marta spoke very naturally about post-mortems, and it's interesting that I loved how natural it was, because I'm from the day where definitely a post-mortem looked like a very serious thing, right? Like I don't think I'm still back in the early 2000s or whatever. I wouldn't meet anyone that would love to go to a post-mortem. And I think that, with DevOps, I think it was even Google that kind of brought the concept of the blameless post-mortem.
Yes.
Which I think it's so spot on. It's the greatest contribution ever, probably even better than search. And is it fair to say that DevOps really helps create this sort of safe work environment, where we can all attend a postmortem and we are just really focusing on the issue and not on who did what? That obviously with the cadence of the releases, that hey, having bugs in production, it's okay, it's part of life. Do you see that DevOps definitely have that contribution to that sort of mindset?
I think it's inevitably how we progress in terms of development culture. DevOps was also the contributing factor for that, meaning we're so focused, like postmortems should be a place, a scenario where you're literally talking openly about, okay, what happened? How can we solve it? And how can we prevent it? Well, usually it's already solved, but how can we, or it is solved, but we can solve it even better. Sometimes it's just a patch. Let's even solve it in a good way. And then how can we prevent it from happening in the future, right? So DevOps is pretty much focused on that. Okay, how can we build the tools? How can we make sure that this doesn't happen again? What do we need to do to make sure that we can deliver software in a healthier quality aspect way as well? So DevOps is also having a massive impact on that from my perspective, even SRE. So if I join now the two, SRE, even as a whole, in terms of roles itself, I think it actually helps us a lot, even on the postmortem side of things. I've had the best inputs on my postmortems or incident reviews, as I had also in the past. The best inputs I've had was from people that work with SRE, because they are super on point. Like, you need to monitor this. You need to understand why this is happening. You need to be able to get to that service and actually understand what you need to fix on that specific service. Everything else should be healthy and all looking good. So I think if you don't have this type of mindset, if you don't have this culture, if you don't get these people in the room that can help with this mindset, postmortems can be stressful, can be tense, can be a blaming game. And that's what you don't want to have. If you go there to blame people, for sure, you lost the people, basically. Of course. So yeah, I think that helps, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Removing the blame makes the difference for sure, because postmortems are the place where you get to have people together that usually do not are not together on the day-to-day. So we can take advantage of that.
For sure.
And learning from failures. I think it's exactly learning from failures and failing fast and learning with it. Yeah, I love that part. I wonder that for people that are listening to these and work in some place that still don't apply DevOps culture, what advice would you give them to start learning more about this area, about this culture? And a way for them to influence the company and start betting more on this practice.
Attend to our meetups.
Good one. Oh my God.
Yes.
Good one.
Well done, Diana.
That was so good. Indeed.
Definitely. The community plays a huge part on this, and you get to get the knowledge from people that I've tried stuff and I've failed and succeeded. So that's a big part that can help. And of course, read some stuff. There's a lot of stuff happening on the internet, and a lot of experiences being shared. Different points of views. These are our points of views, but there are lots of different ones. So yeah.
I think the fact that people can go to meetups and even to influence companies, not just to get people in the DevOps culture side of things, but even to get companies to understand the value of this, going to the meetups, like just grabbing what Diana just said, which is super interesting, going to the meetups and seeing real life examples of things that, oh yeah, I have that problem. How did you solve that? And then someone tells you how they did it. If you bring that to your company in your day-to-day work, look, oh, I know how we could solve this. Like I saw someone doing it. They showed me. They actually told me all these things that I've been facing. They showed me how to actually fix it. I've had that feedback once from one of the DevOps communities, one of the days that we did. And someone just told me that, oh, Marta, I know how to fix that now. That was someone from my team. I was looking at the person here. I told you should come to this meetup because I knew the subject would be interesting for that person, and I knew it would probably touch some of the points that he had, but that can happen to anyone. And I think if you bring those examples then to your real life, and then bring it to your company, slowly things will start to fit into place. Like you kind of show them, we need to have this because we can avoid that. We need to have these tools because we can solve things faster. We can understand problems easier in a quicker way, in a more reliable way, whatever. So I think it's all a matter of also learning a lot with the community, to be honest.
I agree. And if I may add my suggestion, read the Phoenix Project.
Oh, yes.
It's the best book ever
Definitely.
On the topic. Like, it's so good to read. It's such a good
classic.
story. No, it's
classic.
beautiful, right? It's poetry. It's awesome. It's fantastic. I can't, I can't say more good things from the Phoenix Project. It's such an interesting book.
I'm actually going to have it here. It's in my other room. It's tracking.
No, it's good. The DevOps Handbook is also very cool, but the Phoenix Project is like it's
and continuous delivery and all that. Like all those Bibles, I think, are super important for sure.
Indeed. Sir, I think we need to think about kind of going for the last 3 questions.
For discussion,
for us to close the show. It's been such a great episode. And so Marta and Diana, pretty much we usually like to start closing the show by asking 2 final questions. They are pretty much kind of way more relaxed, and it's just for us to have some good fun. So be creative. Do it as ever you please. But pretty much the first question that we have from both of you is, do you have like a favorite quote that that inspires you somehow, from a professional perspective, maybe from a personal perspective, life, you name it, but definitely that every now and then when you really want to get that sort of inspiration, you look at it. I don't know who wants to go first.
Yeah, do you want to go?
Love that.
Throwing me under the bus.
Sorry, I can go.
No, it's okay. Don't worry. So I have a really bad memory, so I don't know. But something that I repeat quite often is something that I read on a book called "Measure What Matters." I don't know. I don't recall if it was by the actual author or some quote that he placed there. But it says something like, if you aim for the stars, you might not get there, but you may reach the moon. That's something that I usually say to my teams when they are, that's not possible, we cannot do that. Or when I'm struggling with something, I always get reminded of that. So I find it interesting.
That's a good one. Okay. I have some. I have one that kind of represents a little bit more in the workplace, but I can also adapt it to my day-to-day life. But I'm a person that actually, just to give that context, I'm a person that usually is okay with change and that is very much comfortable into and focused on analyzing the results and see things, if things need to be changed or not. And I'm usually not afraid of changing if things need to be messed up a bit to get to some better results. So my quote will be, the insanity is doing the same thing all over again and expect a different result. Because I'm a firm believer if things are not working out, if we see that constantly things are not performing as they should, whatever that means, and for whatever reason and context, then I think we need to act on it. And that would be my quote.
I love both.
Just before we leave, Sarah, let me just say one thing. So I have never shared the quote in any episode, but DevOps.
Can you share?
I will, because DevOps is so close to my heart. I need to share a quote that I read it on the Google SRE book that I repeated way often that I would like to. That is, hope is not a strategy.
That's a
So
good
That
one.
is so true.
And that's so interesting that people, we hope it's going to be, we just hope it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
We're hoping, yeah.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And it's not measurable.
Oh, of course. There's no monitoring involved. I agree.
All makes sense. It's all connected.
Everything ties together. Ultimately, that's it.
Exactly. Well, now we are going to switch a bit the roles, and I'm going to challenge you both to ask a question to each other.
Okay.
So, Marta, you can ask a question to
I can
Diana,
kick off. I
and
can
then
kick off
Diana.
now. Okay. I can kick off. If you could choose, Diana, any role in the world, anything, any job, anything you could do, if there's all the world is open for you, what would you choose? To be
Forever?
doing? Yes. Forever. Let's do it forever.
Okay.
That's a nice
Yeah,
twist.
I think forever is a bit trickier. It makes you think. Okay, if you don't want to go with forever, it can be just for now.
Okay. If it was like for just one day or two or a week,
Okay.
I would say work at a professional kitchen. I really love to cook, so I'd say that.
See, I didn't know this. I'm also learning more about Diana.
So one of those relaxed kitchens. There are some cool chefs out there that have relaxed kitchens.
Not Gordon Ramsay
So
style.
no master chef with a counter. Got it.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that. But forever, I pretty much like what I do. So I think I would not change it. So I really love people and I love technology. So having both in my life is really cool. So probably I wouldn't change.
Good one.
Nice.
What about you, Diana? Do you want to return to Marta?
Yeah. Okay. If you had the chance to like spend 2 hours with some great leader, either technological or political or whatever, who would you choose?
So many. I'm assuming a live one.
It can be a dead one. Just go crazy.
Can it be a dead one?
We'll find. We have a time machine. We haven't spoke about it, but we can make it work.
I have a couple on my list, but I will go. Okay, I will go with one because I think I would learn a lot. Okay, I would go with Steve Jobs, and I'll explain why.
Great choice.
I think I really wanted to learn more about. I'm really interested in always learning how things start and how you can kick off something from scratch and an idea. And I'm a huge Apple fan. Sorry for those who were not. I am. I need to be. And that was actually the first thing. Now, I'm just remembering this because it's been a topic in Portugal for a while, right? It's the first thing you've bought with your first salary.
Oh,
there's
God.
a topic around this, right?
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, I was talking yesterday about this, and my first purchase was actually a MacBook. So when I started to work, I'm a huge Mac over Apple fan. So I would talk to Steve Jobs, and I would like to pick his brain a bit on how he got to where he was, and how did it come? Where did that come from? What were his challenges? How did things got to that point? And and how can you build a brand such as Apple? I would say. I think it would be super interesting to pick his brain.
A recommendation, by the way, is to see the presentation of the first iPhone. It's like a 10-minute video.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
So good, crazy inspiring.
Amazing.
So totally recommend everyone. And bonus points for not choosing Elon Musk, but that's for
I was thinking about that.
No. So don't do it now. Don't do it now. Like, otherwise, I'll remove the points.
I'm not going to change it to Elon Musk for sure. No, sticking with Steve Jobs.
I agree.
Well, and talking about inspiring, I think this conversation was quite inspiring. And I think we all learn, at least I learned a lot about DevOps and how should we look at the DevOps as a culture? How can we influence companies? How can we grow into this area? So it was really good to get to know you both as well. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge and tips with us. And I think we can close this episode. And thank you for those that are watching this. And see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.